The My Hero Academia Rising Heroes movie. Oh yes, you're getting that super hyped up Deku and Bakugo team up. And trust me, it was pretty amazing. And then the movie just took a dump on itself. So what's up guys, Foxen here. I literally just saw the new My Hero Academia movie like an hour ago, so this is really my first impression / reaction. Just a heads up, I will keep this non-spoiler, including no spoilers from the manga. At the very end, I do have to have a spoiler section just so I could actually talk about what the hell happened. I'll put a big red spoiler sign there. So go ahead and Detroit smash that thumbs up and let's jump into this. The good, the bad, and the crap fest at the very end. If you're anime only, definitely pay attention to this. This second My Hero Academia movie is actually not anime only friendly. In fact, if you're more than a couple of chapters behind the manga, this is actually going to include some very major spoilers for you. This movie vaguely takes place around wintertime, which is happening right now in the manga. In other words, if you do want to avoid spoilers, I would suggest either not watching this movie, catching up to the manga, or hold off until you've seen My Hero Academia Season 5. Yep, that's how far they are. Anyways, the good stuff. And there actually is a lot of good stuff. It wasn't until the last 15 or so minutes where it really went downhill for me. In fact, minus the finale, I think this movie is a lot better than the first My Hero Academia movie. The two main stars of this movie of course being Deku and Bakugo. However, unlike the first movie, if you are a fan of the other heroes, a lot of these heroes actually get more time to shine. That said, it's pretty obvious that they keep on putting heroes into groups. In other words, you can have the Deku group at the very top that gets the most spotlight. Then you have the mid-range group, then the third tier group for screen time, and then the bottom dwellers. And no, I'm not talking about Class B. So first group, the Deku and Bakugo group. If you're a huge fan of either of these, you will freaking love this movie. You might orgasm all over it. So be careful in the theaters. If anything, I think Bakugo in this movie has the best scenes in the actual anime so far. Then for Deku, for any improvements you have seen in the manga, you're gonna finally be able to see them animated. Let me also just mention that since the first season, I didn't really like Bakugo then. Slowly the guy has been warming up for me. If anything, the stuff that I saw in this movie made me like Bakugo a little bit more. Oh, but am I missing someone? Despite some promotion for this movie actually showing Deku, Bakugo, and Shoto, definitely don't let that mislead you. I would say that combined, Deku and Bakugo get around half the screen time. Then you get into the mid-tier group, and here you could find Shoto. Along Shoto, I would actually put Ochako, Froppy, and Tokoyami. Unfortunately, if you were super hyped to see Shoto in this, definitely lower your expectations. If anything, one of my nitpicks for this movie was that they actually made Shoto seem underpowered at some point. Then for Ochako, I was actually pleasantly surprised with the amount of screen time she got. That said, the way they actually use her, they still haven't found more creative ways to use her quirk. Next up, third tier group. This includes Ida, Mina, Kirishima, the headphones girl Jiro, and Momo. The best thing I could say about them is that they get more screen time than the first movie, I think. Then the bottom tier group. That includes the laser guy, the guy with the tail, the sugar guy, that buff multi-arm dude, the tape dude, balls for head, the weird animal guy, Mr. Pikachu, and then Invisible Girl, but I think I might put her even below this somehow. I got a feeling at some point she used Flash in the movie. I might have just completely missed it. At the end of the day, just like the first movie, a lot of people are going to be calling this a filler movie. They purposely find a way to get everyone in the class off to a different spot that's not Japan, which you've seen in the trailer. Most of this movie takes place on that remote island. For the actual villain guy, 9, let me just mention manga readers know who this is for a particular reason. And right off the bat, this villain is a lot better than the one from the first movie. If anything, you actually understand why this guy is doing what he's doing. You might even be able to sympathize with him. This actually leads into my Marvel comparison. The main villain in this movie of course has his own henchmen. These guys actually reminded me of the Children of Thanos. All these sub-villains are really just a muscle with quirks for the students to fight in groups. Next up, I really do have to emphasize the team up between Deku and Bakugo, which is what this movie has been hyping up so much. I'll just mention that you do get a good serving of that, especially for the finale. Recall the last time that Deku and Bakugo teamed up when they were fighting All Might. They definitely plus ultra that with this movie. From the report I read, supposedly the My Hero Academia author was saving whatever was in this movie, which involved the team up between Deku and Bakugo, for the finale of the manga. After coming out of this, I actually wished he would have waited. Now the flip side to this, no spoilers yet. For some of you, the Deku and Bakugo team up in this movie will either be on the same level or better than the previous All Might and Deku team up. Now for the negative, which of course includes the finale. What happened in the finale actually made me question whether this movie was really supposed to be considered canon. I would have much more preferred if they had one of those friendship power moments, or just have one of those going beyond plus ultra moments, as My Hero Academia often does have. But no, they couldn't do that. Instead, they have one of the most random ass pull power up moments that I will touch on in a little bit, which honestly I don't think was needed. I actually do have a picture of what that is since it came with the movie ticket. You'll see that in the spoiler section. But first, some minor nitpicks too. First off, if you are an All Might fan, definitely don't expect almost any All Might in this movie. Hopefully that should be pretty obvious why. 2. The broken smartphones, which is actually something that My Hero Academia is pretty guilty of doing pretty often. Gotta smash that smartphone. But my minor issue with this movie, they actually do something like that in this movie, but then they go from group to group to group and actually take the time to show you that their smartphone does not work. 3. The major destruction that actually happens in this movie. As you're watching the movie, you're gonna find out that this villain is actually quite powerful. There is widespread destruction that actually takes place due to him in Japan. The thing is, if this movie is canon, they're actually gonna have to address that either in the manga or anime. There's no way the news wouldn't make such a big deal out of that. Then a bonus one actually related to some of the villains. Some of these guys in this movie should have freaking died. Naturally, when quirks are involved, you have a very high potential to get extremely damaged. Let's just say that there's 2 of them that should not be breathing anymore. But sometime later, you find out that they were just knocked out. What? Time for the juicy spoilers, and including my major issue with this movie. For the actual manga spoilers, you do get to see Hawks here. You do get to see Endeavor with his messed up face. You do see Tokoyami using his flying ability. Then for Deku, I'm not sure if this movie is supposed to be taking a lot later in the manga than I expected, or maybe I just completely missed it. But Deku was actually able to use 100% full Cal. It was briefly, but he was able to use it. Speaking of which, for Deku, they actually do reference Deku having multiple quirks. This was also another reason why I was wondering where exactly did this movie take place, since Deku made no effort to actually use any of the Black Thunder quirk that he has. Anyway, let me just get into it. My biggest issue with the Deku and Bakugo finale. And I know, I got a feeling I'm gonna be in the minority on this issue. In the movie, of course, eventually you have Deku and Bakugo, the final 2 heroes standing going up against the villain. The villain is basically a mini all-for-one. You're not gonna be surprised to find out that Deku and Bakugo get beat up badly, which leads into actually that crapola Sunday. Recall that double Detroit Smash from the first movie? Well, you kinda get that in this movie. No, it's not gonna be All Might, but Bakugo using Detroit Smash. In the very last moments, you actually have Deku reaching out to Bakugo. They both hold hands, and Deku somehow transfers some of the one-for-all power to Bakugo. I'll definitely show you guys the picture I got from the movie book. At this point, Bakugo basically turns into Super Saiyan Bakugo. He really gave off this Vegeta vibe. And then, as you would expect, both of these go plus Ultra, and through both of them being powered up by All Might's ability, they take the villain out. At one point, you have both of the super powered heroes punching the enemy. I do believe it was a Detroit Smash. And then Super Saiyan Bakugo uses a big ass explosion. Both of these two just wreck their arms. Now is when more BS comes in. You actually have a moment of Deku apologizing to All Might and the All-for-One power. Deku thinks the power has been completely used up, and to be fair to Deku, they actually show the fire going out. Anyway, post the whole villain defeat, the two actually wake up. Unsurprisingly, this transfer of power or share of power with Bakugo does not get explained. On top of that, get this. When Bakugo wakes up, Bakugo supposedly has no memory of what just took place. The guy doesn't remember at all using the one-for-all power. Come on, what type of writing is that? So let me just go ahead and re-emphasize, I really enjoyed this movie up until that moment. Even in the theater, you could hear some of the people having this shock moment. Not like, oh, I'm impressed, by, oh, what the hell is going on? Which again brings up the question, is this movie really canon? Or is it just like one of those Boruto Dat movies where it's completely filler with that random power up at the very end? But who knows, maybe I'm alone on this. Are any of you guys excited to see this Super Saiyan Bakugo powered guy? Let me actually flip this around and mention two things. I should mention that when you saw some of the past holders, you did see some guy that looked like Bakugo. So perhaps that was just hinting at people that eventually held the powers, past and future. In other words, what was displayed in this movie was something that was hinted at earlier, and possibly could happen again. Then the second point, which is an extension to this. If the My Hero Academia author actually makes this canon, in other words actually introduces this whole transfer or share of powers in the actual manga, at least in the future looking back to this movie, I think it would make it better for me. Although that does bring up the questions, what does that mean for the actual story? Does it complicate things? Or does it make it better if you could actually share this power pretty easily? It actually kind of makes me think of Shazam with that. So overall, the weakest point in this movie was for me the finale. I should mention, despite that whole BS moment, the animation was actually top notch for the finale. As a manga reader, I actually did enjoy this movie on a different level, just being able to see some current manga quirks in action before they actually get into the TV anime. But who knows, this movie may grow on me. Anyway, go ahead and post any questions or thoughts down below. Definitely check my video for the upcoming top anime for 2020. I don't think you're going to be surprised that My Hero Academia made it on that list. Definitely subscribe so you don't miss future videos, and I'll see you guys later.